Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. Today we're going to be working on the same thing in a different way. We're going to be working on SaturnCI as we usually do, which is my continuous integration platform that I'm building. But today is going to be very performance oriented. Let me share my screen and we can get going here. Um, I got to do one thing first. There we go. Okay. Share screen. Okay. So, if some of you have seen Saturn CI recently, you'll probably notice that some parts look a little bit different from last time. Um, I, well, I'm not going to go over all the details and bore you with all that, but I'll show the areas that we're going to be working on. Sorry, I've been up since much earlier than normal. I had a dream about taking pills. I'm really bad at taking pills. Sometimes it takes me like a number of tries, and I have to take like 5 pills every day. And in this dream, I was having to take these pills, and I kept like choking on the pills and coughing up the pills. I had to pick up these like slobbery pills and take the pills again, just over and over. And then I woke up and couldn't get back to sleep. So,
That could easily be my dream.
yeah.
I'm not a good pill taker. Like I get up my courage, big gulp of water. Unless I mean it's a small pill, I can't, but yeah, same.
You have to take like these giant horse pills. It's terrible.
No, I couldn't
Um,
do it.
yeah. Anyway, all that is to say, I'm not firing on all 6 cylinders today. Um,
Wait, you have six
yeah. Well, how
normally?
many you got? Just four?
Three?
Oh, wow.
No, I'm kidding, but yeah, I
Um,
say six is pretty good. Okay, sorry.
oh, that's okay. Um, okay. So, one of the things I've been unhappy with here is that when you first visit a project, it's kind of slow. See how it's not instantaneous? Takes a little bit to get there. That's no good. I want everything to feel instantaneous, or as close to it as possible. Um, I found out that a big part of what's responsible for that slow load time is this list here. So you can maybe see here it says there are 568 test suite runs. And by the way, some of you may be interested in the fact that I changed my domain modeling. Before I was calling these builds. I'm not calling them builds anymore. I'm calling them test suite runs. Took me a long time to arrive at that decision, but now that I have, I feel pretty certain about it. I wouldn't have made that change if I didn't feel certain about it first.
Yeah, I like it.
Thanks. That was a tough one. Anyway, there's 568 test suite runs. That's expensive to load. So I made it so that initially it only loads 20. And then as you scroll down, it loads more. And this is one of the problems. Loading more, it takes a long time. You maybe couldn't even tell that anything was, not maybe, you couldn't even tell that anything was happening. But, now that it kind of broke the ice, for some reason, each subsequent one is faster. But it's no good the way that first one works. And even though I made that change, this page still loads slowly. So we'll have to address that too. But first, let's address the fact that this infinite scroll doesn't happen fast enough. Okay, I see I'm on production here. I'm going to go to local. Whoops. Sorry, someone's joining. I'm going to go to local. Welcome, David.
Howdy, howdy.
And I see now that my my database server is not running. So let's fix that. It's a little bit of a mystery why, but let's do this. We'll do Docker compose down. Hmm, error. Now we'll do Docker compose up and see if that fixes it for us. Looks like it. Okay, that was fast. You know, on production it was slow, but here it's fast enough. Not sure exactly why, because there's still 339 test suite runs here. Anyway, we want to make it faster when we do the infinite scroll. And locally, it's like really fast. So this is interesting. Why such a difference between local and production? Let's see what we can find out. So first, let's get this network tab open so we can just kind of see what's going on in general. All right, I'll select XHR only. Okay, there was the first one. All right, I'm going to do it several times. So it seems to maybe vary quite a bit. Yeah, as little as 73 milliseconds, oh, as little as 69 milliseconds, and as much as 1.69 seconds. That is interesting. Um, and we
So do
have
you
to
ever
keep in,
use something called Rack Mini Profiler?
I have used that, not in a long time.
It's a great tool for stuff like this because it will show you every page load as like a little floating window thing. And you can click on it, it shows you all the partials that were rendered, all the database calls and how long they took. You can even run it in production optionally with your own, like you can bind it to your username so it only runs for your user.
Oh, interesting. I was just gonna say that I thought it was only local, but apparently that's not the case. Okay, I might look into that. Um, okay, so we have these various times. Let's just take a look and compare between production and local to see what the difference is. Yeah, so all of these are under 100 milliseconds. And you know, if it's under 100 milliseconds, you pretty much can't even notice it. It just feels roughly instantaneous. So why the difference? And I think we have to keep in mind that these responses are not just for the bare database records. These are full pages or they're full HTML snippets. And that's a decent amount of HTML there. And I'm curious, do these various chunks of HTML, um, like, does it matter what they are? Like, is that first chunk a big one? Or is that first chunk an expensive one? And the second one, sorry, is the first chunk cheap, the second one expensive, and the third one cheap again? Let's open up another tab and do the same exact thing and see if we see a similar pattern. Not at all. Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So like a lot of them are fast now, but like once in a while it's slow. And I bet if I refresh the page, it'll be different still. Yeah, it seems to just kind of be random. And I wonder if it has nothing at all to do with the way I coded it and something to do with the resource load on my production servers. because I did have some problems recently where I chose hardware specifications that were inadequate for my needs, and my servers kept running out of memory, and it made the application really sluggish and even made it just crash. So why don't we take a look at that stuff? Okay, so first of all, I have 4 pods here. So I guess I'll just pick the first one and I will SSH into it and poke around and see what the resource usage looks like. I don't have any kind of APM on this or anything yet, so I have to do it manually. Okay, so I have this much total memory and this much used and this much free. Doesn't look terrible. Hmm. Yeah, so it's not like obviously a memory issue. Welcome, Stephen. Hmm. Okay. So, open question right now. Is this slow because of the way I coded it, or is it slow because of something inadequate about my production infrastructure? I'm leaning toward the latter because if it's something wrong with the way I coded it, why does it perform so well locally? Although in production, there's a little bit more records here. There's also more data in general, but it doesn't seem like that much more. Hmm, where to go from here? How can I systematically diagnose the problem rather than just guessing? I think I'm lacking some background knowledge. If a page is slow, like in my local environment, if a page is slow, I know how to fix that problem. If a page is slow because of, well, if a page is slow in production only and there's no obvious difference in the amount of data or anything like that, then I don't know what to do about that. So right now I'm just stating what I know and don't know. So one thing I don't know is what to do about this exact kind of performance problem. Um, so let's go to old Chat GPT and I'll say I have a page that's fast locally but slow in production. Help me diagnose. So big picture, I don't know what to do. No idea. Um, so this is my way of going from I have no idea what to do to I'm trying to advance from that point toward I know what the diagnosis is. Okay, look at the production logs to view rendering time, DB query time. Hmm. Okay, maybe. Check database performance, slow queries. Hmm. I don't know if it's a slow query. Check network latency. I'm sure that's not it. Asset and front end performance. I don't think that's it. Background jobs. I don't even have background jobs. Yeah, run top to check CPU and memory usage. I'll paste in my top output just to see. I'm not very good at understanding what the top output is. Um, so maybe this can help. Yeah, your server's top output suggests that CPU and memory usage are not the bottleneck. That agrees with the the guess that I had about that earlier. It's suggesting to do this. The problem is that my logs are distributed across 4 Kubernetes pods, and so this isn't going to be the complete picture. Okay, interesting. I see it says active record 50 milliseconds, 93 milliseconds. Let's just do this a whole bunch more and see what it will give us. Yep, we have some more stuff coming through. I'm gonna do it even more. Wow, some of these are really bad. Over 2 seconds. Um, okay, and this is interesting. So here's like a really bad one, 1.368 seconds. Um, where the heck is the active record part? Oh yeah. But the query only took 629 milliseconds. Here, this took 329 milliseconds. Active record took 100 milliseconds. Um, and this is interesting. I'm not doing anything anymore, but we're still getting stuff. Oh, I shouldn't be assuming that what I'm looking at here is the same page. Let's see if we can get some more
Well,
info.
I noticed one thing on the slow one. Most of them had 9 or 10 queries, but the slow one had 680 queries.
680. Wow.
Yeah, if you look at
Okay. So when I do this, what does that look like? Oh yeah, builds controller index. That's what it is. Okay. So builds controller index. Maybe I should actually do it like this. Maybe I'll do grep for builds controller index. I'll have to get some more of these going. Wow, 4.23 seconds, new record. Okay. Actually, let me do this. I'll just catalogs and then do grep builds controller index. So there's a whole bunch of those. And then I'll do I don't know where the that diagnostic info is. Let's do after 5 lines. Um okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's do after 3 lines. Okay. This seems like more stuff than it should be. I'm confused. Oh, maybe I'm okay. That's not 3 lines. That's just 1, 2 lines. Okay, we'll do after 2 lines. That looks a little better. So we see this and then this. I'm still confused about why I'm seeing so much stuff. Um,
You could
okay.
just look at that. Sorry
Yeah.
to um I keep seeing the one with 1,000 queries pop up, and there is the ID, request ID is there in brackets. You could just grep on that and see everything in that request.
Okay. Um,
So I
I guess I'll
lost
have to get
track of
back to
it
that
because
because
it's a
yeah.
different view.
Okay, so this is what I see when I tell grep to give me not just the matching line, but one after it. Oh, it's giving me one after and one before? That's surprising. So what if I do B0? Nope. Well, what the fuck? If I do B0 and A0, do I get just the line? Yeah. But then if I do B1, sorry, not B1, A1, it gives me a line before also. Do I not know how grep works? How do I get grep to give me the matching line plus one line after? Capital A. Okay. Interesting. I never knew it was supposed to be capital. Okay. So we don't want just one. We want at least two. There we go. That's what I've been after this whole time. Okay. And this is interesting. Look at how many queries some of these have. 1,000, 1804, 1784. That is like insanity. Okay. And Will, you were saying something about a request ID
So the
and
request ID, like right in their brackets, F441C2. Like, I don't know if I could put that one. Like, if
yeah.
you grep that request ID, I think it'll show you everything in that request. And if you have debug on, you'll see active record queries. So you
Okay.
might not have debug logs. So in Rails,
Yeah, I'm
if you
sure I
have,
don't.
I think debugging or info, I think it's debug. It'll show you every active record. It'll log every active record statement.
Well,
And
here's a thought. If it's doing that many queries in production, how many queries is it doing locally? Let's check it out. Yeah, I'll have to refresh this and do it again. Yeah, okay. All right, and this is too noisy to read, so let's open up a new thing here. Um, oh, I shouldn't have done Docker Compose up in this pane that I want to actually use. Here we go. Tail dash F log development, and then we would want to do grep dash A2. I don't even remember what it was. Yeah, builds controller index. Okay. Looks like there's a little more output here, so we need more for someone to cat it to see what that's going to give me. Um, yep, not enough stuff yet. 4 lines? Hmm. Um, 8 lines.
so here you have your active record statements logged because you're in debug. And so you
Mhm.
might need 1,000 lines for some of the big ones if they do actually have 1,000 queries.
Oh, right. Um, Okay, how can I get like just
First and last.
um let's do this. Let's do the tail with a grep of from. So then we'll just see like kind of all the queries that come across. And is this like, it's not a gigantic number of queries. Yeah. Hmm. And can I actually see some stuff? Because grepping was not like as easy as I had hoped. Oh, we can grep for queries. Queries. Okay. So that was 12 queries. Then I'll scroll several times. Yeah, it's like 4 queries every time. And let's do a similar thing on production. Um, let's tail the logs and grep for queries. Oh, wait, it's not going to give us that, is it? Or no, it is. It is.
No, it will. It gives you that line.
Yeah. Oh, I need dash F. All right. So I don't know who's performing the activity that's generating these queries if it's not me using it. So that's an interesting mystery. Um, let's see, how many queries? Okay, just like 9 and 10 queries. All right, then if I refresh this page, oh yeah, it's not necessarily going to show up here because again, everything's distributed across 4 servers. But if I do that a bunch, some of them should hit that one server. Okay, 10 queries, 4 queries, 10, 9. 377, 15, 14. Okay, interesting. So how do we find out what was making so many queries? We'll focus on this 15, 14 one. Log production, grep that. Yes. And we'll do before 5 and after 5. It is impossible to put this zoom thing in a place where it's not going to be in the way. Oh, there we go. I made it smaller. That should help. Um, okay. So what are we looking at? There's this. Okay, builds controller index. So evidently, under some conditions, builds controller index can trigger a bazillion queries. I'm guessing it could be like a cold cache, warm cache issue. Let's test that hypothesis. All right, so we see these small number of queries. Let's all right, we cleared the cache. Now let's see what happens when we load some more records. Nope, still just very few queries. All right, let's look at the code and see if that suggests anything to us. Okay, so we're in this awkward period where we're renaming build to test suite run. So some places it still says build, some places it says test suite run. Um, so this clearly only makes one query. Well, I shouldn't say clearly, but this is the only thing that triggers queries at all. And then there's this partial. Let's take a look at that. Okay, test suite run link. Test suite run link component. I think this is a sign I need to clean something up. It shouldn't be like nested this far in this weird way. Oh my goodness, test suite run link content. Okay, so here's where there is some stuff that can trigger queries, but as you can see, it's cached. Okay, I feel like I'm not making meaningful progress right now.
So I'm wondering if you saw the queries, if it would illuminate where they're coming from, either with Rack Mini Profiler or turning on debug, like so you're logging every query, which actually that might be a big mess in the logs if you log 1,000 queries, but Rack Mini Profiler will scoop them all up, put them in a little window for you to look at.
Mm-hmm. So I like those ideas. There's a practical obstacle though, in that that would require me to do a deployment, and deployments never work on Zoom calls. I don't know exactly why for sure, but I do know that it never works. So anything that
Yeah,
requires a
right.
deployment is off the table, unfortunately. So what can we do without doing a deployment? First of all, I like I catted the whole development log and grepped for queries. And as you can see, like everything is a pretty small number of queries. Here there's 151 a couple times, but like there's never anything that's all that big. And it's that's the case all the way back to the beginning. So that's maybe a clue. Maybe there's some kind of record that we don't have many of locally that we have a lot of in production. Hmm. I don't know what to do with that information, even if it's true. I'm just tailing the production logs just to see if we see any activity. I'm going to see what this is all about. Oh no, I wanted to copy that. I'm curious, like, are there real people actually using the system right now? It's not out of the question. Um, yeah. Um, okay. That was something I touched recently, but it also could be, well, it's probably just from something that I did. Okay, anyway, um, builds controller. Let's do that grep again. Okay. Oh, sorry. I want to be tailing the logs. Let's see how much of the time it's not many queries versus a lot of queries. And I'm watching these response times. For a while, they were really bad. And it's like, does it get worse the more I do it? It's not clear to me whether the answer is yes or no. No obvious pattern so far. Although maybe it's getting worse. Yeah, look at this. There's some cases where there's just so many queries. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna copy this. We'll go here. I'm gonna say sometimes builds controller index triggers a lot of queries, more than 1,000. Locally, it's um, almost always more like four and never nearly 1,000. No, and almost never more than that, and never much more than that. Help me figure out what explains the difference. In production, something might be preventing eager loading. Huh. Honestly, these seem like kind of dumb suggestions. But I'll show it the code and see if that stirs anything up. Does this trigger any thoughts for you? Test suite run list builds might be lazy loading associations. Man, I sure wish I could do a deployment to production on a Zoom call. Let's take a look at test suite run list. Let's just show it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT in general is like not that great at bug diagnostics. Bug diagnosis. Hmm. Okay, I guess let's consider some of these. Possible n+1 query in list items. Hmm. add this includes. N+1 query seems unlikely given that the number of queries locally is never very high. But let's see. Yeah. Hmm. I feel like we're kind of at a dead end. I do have another idea though. Um, okay, so what's the query that's happening here? It's test suite run list dot builds, test suite run list. Oh, that's this. Um, project dot builds. Okay, so like the root of that query is project dot builds. We know that branch name and statuses are both not present because we're not using this filter. Um, so it's just project dot builds. Hmm, interesting. Okay, let's go to this project. Okay, that loaded very fast. So this gets fed into my horrible chain of templates. Oops, that's not it. Test suite run list item. There we go. Test suite run link. Test suite run link component. Test suite run test suite run link content. I promise I'll fix this because it's really dumb. Okay. So it seems like stuff in here is the only stuff that could be triggering more queries. Okay, so there's commit message. There's not that much stuff in here. Let's do this. Cat this grep build dot. Okay, so these are the attributes that are being loaded on this page. So let's do this. Give me an active record query that's like um, project, project dot builds dot map build dot updated at build dot commit message, etc. for all the attributes that are referenced above. No, that's not what I want.
So
Okay,
I
but
just had an idea, Jason, if I can interject.
yeah.
I'm wondering if the same page always creates 1,000 queries, like you're paging through page after page after page. Is it random or is it always And actually, you're just offsetting into a query. So the only thing you're changing is the offset, 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 right? Like, is it always the same page that causes it? Can you reproduce it by just going to that page? Or is it
Um,
just random?
yeah, I had the same question, and so I went through it repeatedly, and no, there was no pattern. It was just random. But this is interesting what we're seeing right now. I'm trying to run this um, line, and it's being very slow. So let's do this. Let's do builds that limit 20. Let's see how long that takes. Wow, that's really slow still. Okay, there we go. Okay, interesting. So I'm surprised by how slow that was. Let's do like limit 2. Okay, even that was like pretty slow. Limit 5. At what point does it become painful? Limit 10. Okay, limit 20. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Okay, let's do like limit 100. Because even loading 100 of these should be pretty quick, but it's not. That is so slow. All right, so let's see what the culprit is. I would predict that if we have update at and nothing more, it'll be extremely fast. Yep. Okay. Let's do like a binary search for it. Let's get rid of about half of them. Okay, look, that's really fast. Um, oh, we have status in there. That's interesting. I assure you that that is the culprit. Yeah, okay. So when we include status but not duration, yeah, that's what makes it really slow. Interesting. I would have thought that these are getting cached. Um, we can do a much simpler version of this. Yeah, that still takes a long time. So if I go to the place, okay. Hmm. Yeah, okay. So it does get cached. If cache status, yeah, but it's like, what's the logic of this? So calculated status is the expensive one, and cache status is the cheap one. Oh yeah, and I'm just depending on the idea that the view is going to have caching. Maybe I should do the caching at a lower level. Hmm. Let's do a test. We can do a test locally. All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to refresh, and I see that it takes like 100 and some milliseconds usually, apparently. And then if to status, I just add like sleep 1. No, okay, so if there's 20 of them, um, if there's 20 of them and it sleeps 1 second, that's gonna be 20 seconds. That's way too long. Let's do a tenth of a second. because that would be like 2 seconds. Okay, so this must be cached, but it is slower. Let's do half a second. Interesting. This seems like we might be barking up the right tree. Okay, so if I change this to where it's like rails.cache.fetch this status. Oh, but I put the sleep in here still. So it'll be like expensive on this next time, but then every time thereafter, it'll be cheap. Okay. But obviously we can't cache the status. Um, like we can't just cache the status without respect to what the status actually is, because then whatever the status initially is, whatever the status is the first time we check it, it'll just get stuck at that status. So we're going to need to bust the cache whenever anything happens that could change the status. Hmm. That seems potentially very involved. So I'm not gonna begin that endeavor right now because we're like at the end of time for the evening, and we don't have time for that. But it seems like what we discovered is that if we cache the status, then our our requests will take less time. I don't know that with 100% certainty, but it seems likely to be the case. Yes. Any comments? Does anybody feel like they can confirm or refute my line of thinking there? No.
I'm just curious, when you calculate the status, that's 1,000 queries. Is that likely generating
Hmm.
that many queries? Because that's the only piece of the puzzle that's not connecting.
Yeah, excellent question.
I mean, in that same line, I thought it said that a large portion of them were cached, but I don't really understand that output.
So let's see what calculated status does. Um, so it checks to see if there's any runs. And you know what? It might be doing a query for every single one of these. Man, that right there might be an opportunity. Um, that might be so significant that we would even notice locally. Let me do that real quick. Um, man, yeah, in general, there's probably just like a way more efficient way to do this. Because like I'm making so many trips to the database for this. Ooh, let's do this. Um, let's see. Okay, calculated status. Okay, yeah. I have an idea. Um, all right, so I'll go at least a few minutes longer. Anybody who wants to hang out can. Anybody who needs to drop off, that's fine. But I want to pursue this idea a little bit more. Okay, calculated status. All right, so I have this test here, calculated status. All right, so I'm gonna run this test. And when I do that, I'm gonna I'm gonna look at the logs. Okay. That supposedly didn't trigger anything in the logs. That doesn't seem true. So it's not doing any test logging at all, apparently. That's weird. All right, let's go to config environments test. Let's change the log level to debug. Let's run this again. Oh, okay. So we see a lot of stuff right in here now. Um, and do we see it? Tail dash F log test. Okay, let's do this again. It doesn't come out there. Okay, interesting. It just comes out standard out. Okay, that's really not what I was after. Okay, what I want to see is this. So like when I go to test suite runs, and I go to calculated status, I want to see how many queries this triggers. Um, because it seems like I can do something like this so that I don't have to hit the database several times. Let me see something.
Is that runs any just a map? It's not a query? Is it getting every run from the database? Like run.all instead of run.where, run status?
Yeah, I think it's going to do a query when it hits runs, and then it's going to do a query for every single run. So we could like cache all that.
Or could you make that a where clause? Runs where, status colon running?
Sadly, no, because that's calculated also.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, yeah, and hang on a second. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. So to get the status of a test suite run, you have to check the status. Yeah, this explains it. You have to check the status of every one of its like parallel runs. I'll say runner. You have to check the status of every one of its runners. Um, and for some of the test suite runs on production, it might have as many as 10 runners. And we might have like dozens of runs. We might have dozens of test suite runs, each with 10 runners. So it's like if you have 10 test suite runs, each with 10 runners, that's 100 um, statuses to check, as opposed to the local environment where my parallelism is just set to two usually. And so instead, If I'm looking at 10, then it's just like a total of 20 instead of a total of 100. Um, yeah, so that could potentially explain it. Yeah. All right. I don't know how to get to the bottom of it right now, but I'm sure that this could be done at least a little bit more efficiently. So I think that's what I'll try to do. Okay. I think that's it for today. Well, thanks guys for joining me. I think we maybe diagnosed it. I'm not sure. I'm tired. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.